in regards to Christian McCaffrey, this tightness. If it is a hold in, would he, negotiate with CMC and, add in a couple more years if that's what he wants, some guaranteed salary? Or is it just this season he wants the guaranteed money? If he just wants this year to be guaranteed, and that's what we're talking about this morning so far is Christian McCaffrey, whether it's tightness, whether it's a hold in. If it's just about having this year fully guaranteed, I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. But I'm not giving him like years after this guaranteed.
Yeah, you have the cap space this year, I believe, according to whatever page of Spotrac you're looking at. It changes by the page you look at. And this is what makes this conversation so difficult, Joe. Like I don't speak NFL salary cap.
It's too confusing.
I don't. NFL cap, NBA cap, all these numbers are fake. I'm convinced NFL money isn't real. Like it's just fake numbers, and I don't know what any of these guys' paychecks look like.
I hate the NFL ever since it's just like, oh, don't look at the contract, just look at the guaranteed amount of money on the contract. I was like, this is stupid. Stupid. The NBA, it's all guaranteed, and in the Major League Baseball, it's all guaranteed. There's still in the NFL, it's just
But like this is the part. Like one page on Spotrac will say his cap hit is $10 million. You go to a different page, his cap hit is $12.5 million. One page is guaranteed at $17 million. One page is 24. I think that 24 is guaranteed at signing though. So maybe that explains that number. But yeah, none of these numbers, unless you're one of the top, cap experts in the NFL. Who's the
capologist?
Who's the capologist of the NFL? Who's the Bobby Marks of the NFL?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. We got to get on that. Maybe we can get him in.
I thought we've had someone who's smart in capology on the station in the past.
Oh, we probably have, but I'm not smart enough to remember.
Dave Lombardi is always pretty good. That's Dave Lombardi's really good, actually, of speaking NFL cap. He's pretty good at breaking this stuff down. He's right about everything when it comes to the cap. So maybe he's a reference.
So there's $10.8 million for CMC this year. That is what he's making, but he can make, I believe, up to what? 12.5, and that rest that's making up that difference, so that's what, roughly 1.7 is not guaranteed, if I have that correct. Is that really what we're squabbling over? 1.7 million?
He's probably squabbling over more.
Easy enough for me to say in my seat this morning. Maybe that's something for Christian, who's made hundreds of millions of dollars in his career. So, or actually, he hasn't. It's 97. He's trying to get to that $100 million mark. So close. So close.
These guys, they're always they are big on the average salary number, and I guess Gibbs and Bijan bumped that average salary up to $22 million, and McCaffrey is now a lowly fifth highest paid running back by the AAV, average annual value. And he wants to see his number be up there at the top because he thinks that he is one of the best running backs in the league, which, based off of what he has done in his career over the last couple years, I mean, if you just want to put his time as a 49er, yeah, he has been one of the 2-3 best running backs in the NFL when he is on the field during that time. So him wanting to be paid to that level, I do get that. So, I mean, I don't know what option you go with here. Maybe you convert some money into a signing bonus, give it to him now, but that spreads out over the next few years. Maybe just give him a legitimate extension. I don't know if I go that far. Maybe you do some incentives that are easy for him to achieve this year. But if he wants money guaranteed, then incentive money isn't guaranteed money, even if you made the incentives, very reachable for him, because it's the NFL. Any play can be your last. So he wants that guaranteed money. I don't know what the best option for the 49ers to do here is.
Last year, he was 8th in total rushing yards amongst starting running backs, 1,202. The names above him, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, James Cook III. And then, if you just want to go.
Think of how many more rushing yards he would have, though, if he didn't have to spend 5 weeks being wide receiver number 1.
Well, that's what I was getting at. But then you go to his passing statistics, and he's by the numbers, receiving, not passing. But I think he did have a couple of passes last year as well. He's 23.
And he can pass.
He can do everything. No, legitimately. He can do. He is a ultimate Swiss Army knife. He's a jack of all trades and master of all of them. 924 receiving yards last year. He was 23rd. 23rd in receiving yesterday as a running back. As a running back last year. Drake London, Jalen Waddle. These are just some of the names behind him. Travis Kelce, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Jacoby Myers. Christian was better in the passing game than some of those guys.
The only guy who had more yards from scrimmage last year was one Bijan Robinson. Christian had 21-26. Bijan had 22-98.
So we're not saying that he isn't incredible, and we haven't appreciated what Christian McCaffrey has meant for the 49ers these last handful of years. He's been freaking incredible. That being said,
it doesn't seem like you have a lot of trust in what he can do going forward.
I don't. Like last year, Sam, for as great of a season he had, did you feel like you were seeing a slightly diminished version of Christian McCaffrey?
It didn't look the same. Like, it's hard to really kind of like, at times it was hard to put a finger on what was different, but it looked different, especially when he would do those outside zone runs off the tackle. Like, in not so much the prior year because he was absent for so much, but for a lot of that Super Bowl run year, when he hit that outside edge, he was boom, right up field. He could not be stopped. It looked like he was a half step slower last year. It did at some times. We've asked Baldy about it. He said, he's lost some burst there, and it was hard to see at times, more noticeable in other times. That was concerning to see kind of the drop-off. But was that a one-year thing because he's come back from the bilateral Achilles tendonitis and maybe another year removed from that? Does he have that burst back? I don't know.
You look at, just explosive plays, right? And, his longest rush last year. Do you know what his longest rushing attempt was last year by the yardage?
Well, I do, only because I'm looking at the number. Why don't you say it?
41 yards. 41. Some of the other names in there, right above him, Jahmyr Gibbs, 78, right? Devon Achane, 59. Bijan, 93. Jonathan Taylor, 83. Hell, Derrick Henry, who's older than him by a couple of years, 59.
Yeah.
James Cook, 64. Now,
this guy who is his longest rush in 2023 was 72 yards. So, longest rush of the year. There's so much variable that comes into that, whether guys blow an assignment on defense, like who's just breaking off 72-yard runs like they're nothing,
Well, a lot of his contemporaries were, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but again, you can have one long rush of 72 yards, but the rest are all, in the 10s and 15s.
But weren't we accustomed to Christian McCaffrey at his best doing that, like all the time, it felt like? When he was at his best, whether that was Carolina on crap teams over there, he was still breaking off, house calls.
Yeah.
He didn't do that last year.
I look more at the yards per attempt, where, again, that breakout in that big 2023 year, he had 5.4 yards per attempt. The season the Niners acquired him, he had 4.7 yards per attempt, 4.6 with the Panthers, 4.7 with the 49ers. Year before, 2021, this is in 7 games, obviously 4.5 yards per carry. Last year, though, that number dropped under 4 yards per carry. It was 3.9 yards per attempt. That's the number there that worries me, because that kind of, I think, represents more of the volume of how he had to have more touches for less yards.
Do you know how many 20-plus yard rushing plays he had? 3.
Last year?
He had individual runs of 20 yards or more 3 times.
What about those prior years?
I don't care about the prior years. I'm worried about the future.
I'm not here. I want to compare what he did last year to the other years in terms of how many.
I thought you had that. I thought you were going to,
Oh, no, I thought you had pulled that
I can do it if you want, but I'm just saying, I'm going off the most recent season of Christian. Like, and if we go to the season prior, he didn't play enough for me. So it's like that was a lost year in general.
That 23 season. That's what makes it hard. It's hard to really compare last year to the 24 season. So you got to compare it to 23, but 23 was such a transcendent year from him that.
And then you had such a transcendent drop off the season after. So that's what I'm getting at, Sam. Is this going to be like a causation correlation thing where he had that great year in 23, they get to the Super Bowl, he has the fall off, right? And then last year, an incredible season from, a touches perspective and winning comeback player of the year. Are we looking at a potential another drop off this upcoming season? And I don't want to be, Captain Negative over here. You just have to have the conversation. Running backs sometimes just fall off a cliff. That's what happens at this position. There's a reason why this market was depreciated for so long. And now it's just recently, these guys are finally getting paid again because it looks like it's hard to find those legit guys. And I understand that. But there's a reason that Shanahan keeps drafting these running backs in the 3rd, the 2nd, the 4th, whatever. And I know they failed. It hasn't been good. But they're hoping Kalon Black could be that guy. They were hoping that Jordan James could be that guy. Hell, they traded for Brian Robinson Jr. last year. It didn't really work out. They're trying to find his heir apparent. They just can't do it. They can't do it. Or at least someone to take some of those workload off. So I don't know, man. I'm concerned if they do give him like another year after this, like fully guaranteed. we could be looking at a potential disaster if he can't stay healthy this year.
Yeah, I'm more hesitant to give him years than money. I mean, that's always been my thing with contracts. I care more about the years than the money, again, especially in the NFL, where, as I mentioned a minute ago, I think all the money is fake. There's always ways to do something sort of voodoo-y with the cap to squeeze everything under. I mean, that's one of, Prog Marat's greatest skill sets, I thought, was
Prog Marat, I like that, not Marate.
Prog Marate, one of his best skill sets was just making money, it seemed to appear, for the 49ers to cram everybody under the cap. But you look at their cap situation next year, where it's an absolute nightmare and a half. That's, I think, the downside of that. Chase and I, we were talking before the show about the concept of, kicking the can down the road in regards to these contracts. And that's what the Niners have been doing. And that road's going to end next year. So that is a further complication in terms of how much money you can give McCaffrey. So if there's a way that, if you can give him more money this year to get him on the field, just to, shut this whole thing down and get back to playing normal football, I'm fine with that. I'd rather not add years on, though, into his age 32, 33 season, because what running back is still functional to age 32, 33 these days? It's
really like Derrick Henry. And who was my guy last year for the Minnesota Vikings? Former Packer. His name is escaping me right now.
Not A.J. Dillon, right?
A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, I think. Aaron Jones, you were
that's
right.
Who it was, yeah.
Dillon was another guy that played for the Packers, though, so that's why, yeah. By the way, this segment is brought to you by Golden State, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit goldenstatelumber.com. But you're right, Sam. It's not like the quarterback position where, these guys are aging more gracefully, into their mid to late 30s. The running back position, by nature, yeah, you have some outliers here. Maybe Christian could be an outlier. He is a Hall of Fame worthy candidate right now if his career was over. And hopefully he does have a handful of years of left. I'm just not betting that he's going to be that dude these next handful of seasons that he's been, last year, a couple of years ago. It's just history has shown us that it's just not the case, especially how his game is. It's one thing for Derrick Henry, who's just so much larger than everyone else.
I was just about to get into that. The body build of Derrick Henry, the dude's built like a freight train.
Yes.
Whereas Christian McCaffrey is more like a Lamborghini.
Yes.
And so, like, Derrick Henry, he can take that abuse. And again, even last year, I thought Derrick Henry looked
the muscle car.
A smidge slower last year from Henry. Even like the wear and tear is even starting to catch up for him. So it comes for all these guys. Especially when that age starts with a 3.
So if we're going fast and furious here, Derrick Henry's like the Vin Diesel, like muscle car. And then Christian's the import for my guy, Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. No, I've only seen the 5th one of those movies.
You've never seen the first 4?
I've seen 1. I've seen 5. And then I saw the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff movie.
So you just like went beginning, middle, and end is what you did.
Basically, yeah.
That's fine. You didn't miss much. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live in the free Odyssey app, coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. Spadoni, Lubman in for Shasky. Brian Balder going to be joining us in about 27 minutes. And Bonte Hill for the entire 9 o'clock hour as well, presented by Ceremony Ford, your Bay Area Ford store. And the conversation we've been having has been about this potential hold-in for Christian McCaffrey. Is it hold-in? Is it tightness? Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk yesterday, talking about it.
Sometimes when you try to understand things happening in the NFL, you need to look at the timeline. For example, Falcons running back Bijan Robinson gets a big contract. A couple of days later, Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs gets a big contract. A couple of days later, 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey starts missing practice due to tightness. He's now missed a week of practice, and some are wondering whether or not his tightness, whether his absence from practice relates to a desire to get an adjustment to his contract, given what Robinson and Gibbs are being paid. McCaffrey's now 30. He's due to make $12.5 million this year. None of it is guaranteed. He's got one last bite at the apple, and now is the time to take it. And now is the time to protect himself while he lays the foundation to get that sweetener. He doesn't need the preseason. He doesn't need the extra reps. He is ready to go. He's always ready to go. But he may be ready to sit until he gets that contract. Some believe that it's going to happen. Either way, we'll see if the 49ers pay him one last time before Christian McCaffrey's career runs out.
It's an interesting last part. I don't know if they're going to.
Nothing's guaranteed for him this year, so, it's a tough situation that he's in.
I hear what he's saying, and I know he has the leverage right now. I was listening to Willard in Dibs yesterday, and Mark is making the point that, hey, he's got all the leverage right now. If you just look at the running back situation, and this is a run-first offense under Kyle Shanahan.
Even if Kalen Black and Jordan James were healthy, he would still have the leverage because of, Joe, we've seen what this offense looks like when he's not on the field.
Yeah,
it does not move the same.
But I also saw what the running game looked like when he was on the field last year, and it was one of the worst in the NFL. It just was. Are we sleeping on that?
Pretty. It still got the job done, though.
Yeah, but it didn't when it mattered most. When it mattered those Seattle games, that front dominated you. Christian couldn't do anything. Yeah. Do I think Kalen Black, if he was the starter this year, all of a sudden he gets healthy and he has a little more burst maybe than McCaffrey at this point? Do I think he's automatically going to change everything? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a culmination of a lot of things. Christian was not the problem overall with the running game last year. That was probably the offensive line. And even Kittle, who was saying yesterday he played a sound, maybe that had to do with a lot of the wide receivers getting hurt and going down, not having that zone blocking scheme, under wraps, if you will. And Kittle, obviously, in his own right, being hurt. Luke Farrell is not a replacement for George Kittle.
He's supposed to be the blocking tight end.
Yeah, but he's not. He's not good. All right, I think we can call it what it is. Luke Farrell's not good.
It wasn't happening.
Jake Tonjes, good, but he's a pass catcher. He's
not a blocker.
So, there's a culmination of things to why the running back, game and the running position last year was just not good. In the rushing attack overall, I still am concerned about CMC. And I'm sounding like, Shasky, I'm scared, right? Shasky goes, I'm scared about this. Maybe Baldy will tell me I shouldn't worry. Maybe Bonte will tell me I shouldn't worry. But I still have major question marks heading into this season, even if Christian gets a new, contract, even if he buys in or whatever to the season. That might be the biggest question mark for me is the running game alongside the defensive line, which has another big question mark. And Nick Bosa, what's going on there? I have no idea. I know he's coming off a third torn ACL in his career dating back to high school. They're relying heavily on him and Christian to be those dudes this year, and that might be their downfall. If you're going to tell me that this team is relying heavily on not only Nick Bosa, but Christian McCaffrey to be major difference makers, that has boom/bust potential written all over it, in my opinion.
That's actually how I would describe the Niners. I think they got the most boom or bust in the NFC West right now, just because so much of this team is built on the performance of aging players who are good when they're healthy and available. Joe, if you were able to magically switch off injuries for this upcoming season, Niners would be far and away, I think, right up there with the Rams in terms of favorites in the NFC.
Ooh.
In fact, I think if you could switch off injuries, I might take the Niners over the Rams in the NFC. But
really,
we don't live in that reality.
Really?
So, yeah. I think the Niners absolutely have all the talent wherewithal to win the NFC West, health permitting.
Wow.
But
we just did the exercise yesterday. The depth chart, you begrudgingly took the Niners tight end.
You have to factor health into a lot of this too.
Yes. Well, I understand that.
And this is in the world where you can take injuries off the board that doesn't exist. That's what I'm going after.
Even if I take injuries off the board, Christian McCaffrey played in all the games last year, but he still wasn't the same version of Christian McCaffrey a couple years prior. Mm-hmm. So, Nick Bosa might stay healthy this year. He might not be the same version, though, of Nick Bosa that we've accustomed to see last handful of years.
The Nick Bosa situation worries me a little bit more in his cells. Did you read the Eric Branch article in the Chronicle yesterday?
Say?
Basically, he talked to a couple other doctors and medical scientists, as we like to call them. They know their things.
Oh.
And, just a lot about the whole concept of a second ACL on a guy's knee. And just, it's stuff that's been kind of said on the station before, but just, I don't know, for some reason, reading it yesterday, seeing how with the second ACL, with the first ACL, it's more of like a 6 to 12 month recovery. And when week one would be 354 days since Bosa tore his ACL last year. So that would fit into that 12-month recovery. But when it's a second ACL, the recovery can be almost a 12 to 18-month process. And that was like,
it's science.
That's a little bit more concerning there, in the fact that Bosa might need more time to get that knee right, but they don't have more time.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm hoping for both of these scenarios it is a hold in, because if it's not, then we are worried about injuries heading into week one.
Yeah.
And that is a big if we take Ian Rappaport at his word when he said this.
Let me give you the contract update here. This is not fake. Actual tightness, not fake tightness, not a hold in, actual tightness. Does not seem.
All right. If you just take him at his word there, it's not fake, it's not a hold in anything. There's tightness, and he hasn't practiced for week, whatever it's been. Yeah, That is a big burger. If you play my Nick Friedel, that's exactly what that is. Like,
Do we have that drop yet?
no Garendo, obviously, and I don't think anyone's counting on him. But that was before the training camp even started. He torn his pectoral.
I'm just waiting for the update. Official. Isaac Grendo's been cut.
Jordan James, fractured rib. Kalon Black, what is it, a groin for him?
Adductor.
Adductor.
Adductor, yeah.
The adductor is like, I think the groin. It doesn't matter.
I think it's the thigh.
It doesn't matter. It's the hip bone, whatever. Whatever.
Attached to the
He's
knee
hurt.
bone.
He's hurt.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to me. And then now we're dealing with tightness for a guy. All offseason last year, we were talking about, can he even stay healthy? We were freaking out about a calf strain before week 1, for God's sake, Sam. We stopped the whole Red and Gold Summit last year because we had an injury update on Christian McCaffrey. And then Willard, who, he's the MC for all of it, he's like, well, do we want to revise our win-loss projections because of a week 1 injury report for Christian McCaffrey? Like, that's what we're dealing back with the running back position. Well, now my brain goes here. Maybe it's unfair to, you can't predict injuries and you're trying to, bank on young talent. Did Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch F this up this offseason when it came to the running back position and not bringing in another bona fide veteran potentially to, be there in case these injuries took place? I understood what CMC did last year, but you also have to take into account these guys are smart. These guys have all the doctors. These guys have all the numbers. If we're talking about the usage rate and the follow-up after the year after for some of these guys, they have to have that information too. But what do we know about Kyle Shanahan? He runs his running backs into the ground.